So great day to each of you in your respective places. I want to say welcome to this second session where we have a conversation about grief. Many of you joined us last time, and whether you did or not, and we talk about grief as being that piece of life, that emotion, that experience that from time to time each of us will experience. And how we navigate it is a conversation that we don't frequently have. It's one of those topics that sometimes we want to keep to ourselves and not share, or perhaps we think it is unique to us, but it is not. And that today is one of the things that we're going to talk about, in as much as last time, if you recall, we talked about those experiences that we share when a loved one transitions and we think that we don't have those experiences anymore. Like, for example, that meal that Big Mom would cook. And she wrote the book on that recipe. But as time goes on, we see that we still can enjoy the kinds of things that we enjoyed during Big Mom's life, and that her legacy leaves to us still great memories and opportunities to move forward. And so today, we have another dynamic presenter. As you've seen from the flyer, her name is Alfreda Brooks. She hails from that great state of Georgia. She's a member of Antioch AMEC Church and Stone Mountain, Georgia. I'm memorizing all this stuff. See, I've got a good memory. But also, I know that as she presents to you and talks to you and shares with you out of her spirit, that you will come to know her as the presenter that I know she is. She is the immediate past president of the 6th Episcopal District Lay Organization, but she is a teacher at heart. She serves on various committees, but she's a teacher at heart. She has a love for this church. She has a genuine joy. And did I say she's a teacher at heart? So hear ye her in the next couple of minutes. But firstly, let us get on one accord. Let's go right now to the throne of prayer. Gracious Lord and Master, thank you for being Lord. Thank you for putting it in our hearts, in our minds, in our spirits to gather today, to have a formidable conversation, to lean in to our grief, but more importantly, to our love. Thank you, O Lord. Lead us and guide us, we pray. Amen. And now, without further ado, they will take the spotlight away from me and we'll lend it and give it to our presenter, Ms. Alfreda Brooks. Alfreda?
And hello to everyone. And no matter where you are and what time it is in your area, hello to you. I am truly excited to present to you as part of the Good Grief series, an initiative sponsored by the Connectional Lay Organization. And I'd like to thank DOLA, for the opportunity to be a service to you. All righty. I want you to take a look at my buddies here. In this grief session, we'll be talking about anger and regret. And my emojis I've named Arthur and Robert. Anger for Arthur and Robert is my regret. I used to teach my children when we were riding down the road and someone would upset me and I didn't want to use those bleep bleep words. I would give everybody a name based on the letter in their license plate. So I've had my Myrtles, my Harolds, my Thomases, my Georges, and they would always say, well, Mommy, do you know those people? I said, no, I don't know them. but I'd rather use a name for them rather than have a bleep. So today we have Arthur and Robert working with us this afternoon. As stated before, I'm a member of Antioch AME Church in Stone Mountain. I'm a past conference and presiding elder district director of lay. I am the past 6th District Lay President, and I'm a facilitator of a grief share ministry for 6 years at Antioch. As a former lay director activity and a present experienced grief facilitator, I'm grateful for this opportunity to discuss the journey of grief. Grief is a constant companion and it never fully disappears. In the early days of loss, it can feel overwhelming and unending, with emotions that are especially raw and difficult. From my own experience, I can assure you that although the beginning is incredibly hard, it does get better with time. Life finds a new sense of order. Even though things may never return to how they once were, you will discover a new normal and you will adapt. The impact of hidden emotions. Today, our focus will be on the emotions that often remain hidden, those we sometimes struggle to express properly. These emotions can manifest in unhealthy ways, potentially making us ill, isolating us, or even leading to depression. In particular, we will look at anger and regret, two powerful feelings that can be especially challenging during grief. I haven't written a book. I don't have a profession in grief, so I can only base my presentation on the experiences that I have shared in my grief journey. So I will take you along to some personal things, and I hope that they will assist you and encourage you when it seems so unfair. Anger can give you the energy to make needed changes. And anger is powerful, but God can help you manage it. Forgive. Can't see it, but just give me a minute here. I can get to that page. Forgive is important with our relationships. So when I talk about anger can give you energy to make needed changes. In some of our losses, things have been tragic. Some have been waiting. We've waited on that situation to come to a loss. And anger can come in different ways. But anger can also help us to make those different changes that we need to make, such as laws, getting things changed for gun control, stop signs in places where they needed to be, challenging the anger in some ways or some places that will help us navigate through our grief. I'm often wonder how I would feel with the anger of a sudden loss, a murder, someone in the line of duty that should not have been in the wrong place at the right time, in the wrong place, and they're taken from us. That's a powerful energy that you can channel into a different avenue. Do we always look angry? No, we don't. And some of us allow that anger to fester in our lives and we hold on to it, and often it can make us sick. Anger is powerful. It is very, very powerful if you don't know how to control it. But God can help you manage it if you bring it to Him. One of the hardest things in our anger is being able to forgive somebody, because it hurts so much. And it could be a sudden loss, or it could be a, a loss that transitioned along the way. But we can find solace if we forgive. One of the stories that amazes me is when we talk about the Emmanuel Nine, when the church opened their doors to a young man for Bible study and embraced him to be with them, to be a part of the fellowship. And he turned around and took a gun and began shooting. The anger that I expected from everyone during that situation surprised me, because a lot of them came and said they forgave that young man. I don't know if I could have done that. Now, there are a lot who said they were still working on forgiveness, but just showing that forgiveness in that particular time made a difference in my life. We can show forgiveness, and some of us can do it right away and relieve our anger. And in some of us, we can't do that. So we have to look at the emotion of anger, how we go about settling it, and how we address it. Addressing anger. How much time and energy do you spend assessing blame? How is it that, how does it affect your grief recovery? Some people think of revenge and anger all day. Some don't think of it all day, but it's deep in their heart. Anger and bitterness can complicate your grieving process if they're not handled properly. And so we're going to talk about some of the emotions. Forgiveness is the key, and how we can get to it. I have a little story to tell you. Happened some time ago, where the wife was still married to the husband, and legally, and he died. But the family felt that because they weren't living together and they weren't together, that they had the right to do all the arrangements for the funeral. So, sometimes in these funerals, we can get a little testy. So in this situation, they were going back and forth on how the service was going to be handled. And there was a lot of anger in this with the wife legally and the family. So what the wife did was had the service 6 o'clock in the morning. That when the family came at 11 o'clock, everything was done. There was no body. There was no service, because the wife decided to ease and address her anger with them by going ahead and having the service. That's an easy way of getting everybody together. It's an easy way of ending the possibility of a showdown in a funeral. Was it the safest way to address the anger? So we have ways that we can address the anger, and we have emotions that we can use for forgiveness. So, as you can see, we have a collage of different ways that we are angry. And not all of them are like the picture you just saw with everybody in tight formation. We show our anger for displeasure. We show our anger in being furious or ferocious. We even are danger. We are outraged. We have ill temper, and we have slow to burn. The least little thing that someone does can cause us to be impatient, to have a hissy fit, because we have this anger built up in us. So our questions of anger can be towards a doctor on the decisions that they made for our loved ones. It could be with a nursing home on how they handle the procedures of our loved one. It could be with the bus driver or the person or the car that's passing the bus without and see the lights flashing, but still go through and hit a child. It could be with an intersection that didn't have a traffic light, but they should have had a traffic light because of the situation. But how do we forgive those people who have done hurt to us, who've taken away things from us? How do we forgive them? And forgiveness does not happen overnight. It takes some time for it to mellow in our hearts. So we have to learn how to look at the situation and see what control we have in their decisions. And then we get angry with God because God took someone that we felt was not their time to leave. How do we deal with those feelings of anger with God? Scripture tells us that God does not make a mistake. He knows what he's doing. We have no idea what he's doing, but we need to be able to forgive and move forward in our forgiveness. If bitterness has taken root in your life because of anger, it will poison relationships touched by it. We fall out with family. We fall out with friends because we're not willing to let go of that bitterness. We lose sleep. We don't eat because of the bitterness that we have allowed to grow into our life. Is anger healthy? Not really. Can we do something about anger? We can. There are many methods that we can use. Have I ever been angry with God? Yes. But my anger with God had to do with the loss of my children. I had 3 children, and 2 of them have gone on to glory, one in 2012 and one in 2015. But I was afraid to show that anger with God because who was I? He's the master. He knows what he wants. He knows when we have done all that we can and we have completed our assignment. So my anger with God, I kept hidden. And as I traveled through my journey of grief, I learned to understand through grief share, through talking to people, that it wasn't my decision. It was God's decision that he would take them. Erin Renee was 29. I'd watched her go through high school. She had her high school graduation. She had a job. She moved to Atlanta. She got married. I was able to witness her wedding. A lot of people have not been able to do that. Was I mad with God? Yes, because she wanted to have children, but she wasn't there at that point. Her death had to do with a medical decision that she made that didn't work out to her, did not work out for her. And then with our son, he died at 37 of a massive heart attack. And I'll talk about that later on in this presentation, how upsetting it was. And still again, someone would say to me, but you've lost 2. Aren't you mad? Yes, I was mad. But I was afraid to say that because I'm a believer in God. And I know that what he wanted to do was what was needed to do. So who am I to question God's decision? I'm not the Almighty. He is. God has a message for all of us. And this is his message to you. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. And do not, my dear friend, but leave room for God's will. It is mine to avenge, and I will repay. We see these movies, and we see in present day where people are going to revenge. We have gangs that want to revenge. We have We have gangs who want to revenge. We have people who want to take it into their hands to do what they think is best. The Lord is righteous in all his ways and does. And that's from Psalms 145. And remember, if this is a situation where justice should prevail, consider what steps you could do. So not all of our anger and not all of our losses are just free. We can, if we feel need to provide justice, charges, people going to court, people being put in prison. That doesn't say that that is not a revenge. That is a punishment through God that we hear and we know. Even if you're not satisfied with the outcome of justice, God will ultimately administer justice. So don't think that because it didn't go your way, that God is not going to provide an end to your situation. Punishment is still due. A sin has been committed. We just have to let go and let God take care of that. So overcoming bitterness, make every effort to live with everyone. See to it that no short of the grace of God and that there's no bitter roots growing to defy many. And that's from Hebrews. Give grace. Give grace. You may not want to give grace, but give grace so that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Hebrews 12:14a through 15. Give grace. Sometimes people say things to us. Well, it's been over 10 years since Rashawn, and you're still talking about Rashawn. Yes, I'm going to talk about Rashawn. But in essence, I don't feel that I need to worry about what other people are saying because they don't know. My grace that I give is what God has given to me. So I have to understand that being in my angry state or feeling anger or frustration or hostility, it's there because I have those emotions. And in most cases, a lot of us don't talk about our feelings. We keep them well hidden. But when people say things to us real crazy, and you should be over it by now, you never get over your journey of grief. I don't care how you try. And then sometimes when you are in a mood, you get ambushed and you begin to think of different things and how people, it reminds you of a time when, hey, mama cooked Thanksgiving. We had dinner. The table was so full of food that we couldn't put our plates on the table. Those are times where we're ambushed and we have to give ourselves grace that this journey is still there for us to receive. One of the best things I found is a journal, and that writing in that journal is a healing mechanism of how I'm feeling or how I want to feel. So if I'm angry with God, I can do a self-check. If you find yourself struggling with being irritable, easily frustrated, and quick to snap at people, then use your weekly journal to evaluate what's going on. Well, you say, well, how do I write? What do I write? At first, it might be just a word, mad. He did it. I wish he hadn't have done it. Bring your frustrations and questions to God by writing them down. Then look at the character traits of God. How do you think God will respond to your concern? You'll get the message in his scriptures when you're reading, because all the information that you need is in there. I wish he hadn't have done it. I wish they had told me that this was going to happen. The doctor said there was a possibility, but he really should have said it's going to happen. Don't know when, because I can't put a timetable on it. I wish the school had put a traffic light there at that intersection, because children, little children, just run out in the streets. We don't know. And what frustrates us with your loved one are that you struggle with. What frustrations, excuse me, with your loved ones are you struggling with? If you could, what would you say about this to him or her? You made me mad. You should have done. You should have taken the medicine. You shouldn't have gone out on that bad weather. You shouldn't have gotten into drugs. And I'm frustrated because there was no way that I could help you. And when you write these things in your journey, you are struggling to forgive someone. You are struggling to get through the loss of your loved one. And writing in your journal daily, today's a good day. I realized the sun was out today, or today is not a good day. I cried all day long. And then maybe 3 months later, you write, didn't cry so much today. Maybe a year from now, I see now that I've grown in strength because I was able to move forward into my journey of grief. Are you struggling to forgive someone associated with the death of your loved one? Describe how this is affecting your life. When my father had multiple myeloma, and the doctors it was new then, because that was back in the 90s. It was new then, this myeloma. They've come up with all types of medications and treatments to help us along the way with our illnesses. But at that time, I thought they were using my father as a guinea pig, because they wanted to try this on him and they wanted to try that, but they didn't really know what was the best thing. All they could do was give him the medication and then come back and try something new. And I was very frustrated that even when he went into a coma and they had all the tubes in him, and I knew, and my siblings and my mom knew, that Daddy didn't want to be in all those tubes. So when we told the doctor that we wanted them to move the tubes and the breathing tubes and the heart monitor from Daddy, and that if he made it, he made it. If he didn't, he didn't. It made us feel good, but it made us upset with the doctor because the doctor didn't want to do it. He felt, well, I believed it if he called me Young. I believe Young is going to make it through this. We just need a little bit more time. But when you're sitting there and you're seeing your loved one suffer, you don't want to see that. You don't want to hear that. Likewise with our daughter, Erin Renee. Erin went into a coma after having a surgery. And they did everything. They gave her kidney. They did the kidney dialysis, hoping that would bring her out. And after a while, none of those things worked. But they wanted to keep trying. But there comes a point where you say, I can't. You're just dragging them through this. And that's how I felt about the forgiveness. Because at first I was very angry with them. What? I don't want them to be guinea pigs. I want them to live a life, and I want them to live a life that is great for them. So that anger in writing in that journal, how I felt, it has changed since then, that the death of my loved one, it did affect my life on how I wanted things to be done for me and others. So let's move quickly to regret, if only. And Robert's right here with me with his face of remorse. So quickly, I'll tell you this. It was in 2015. Um, our male choir was singing. I wanted to uh, go to church and hear the male choir sing because my husband was leading a song that time, and his nickname for the women of church is Very White. So I knew that he was going to be singing, and I was getting ready to go to church. He had left earlier than me. And so all of a sudden, our son Rashawn comes out of his bedroom, holding his chest and holding on to the wall in the hallway, making it down towards me. And I looked at him and I said, Rashawn, are you okay? He said, yes, I just have a pain. He went and sat down on the couch, and I looked at him. I said, you feel okay? He said, yes, I feel okay. Well, Rashawn was born with a heart defect. And at the age of 5, he had open heart surgery. So he had restrictions on him, that things he could do, things he could not do. He could not exert his heart. He grew up wanting to play football. He was a big guy, but they wouldn't let him play because of the exertion. He couldn't pass the physical. So I went on to church. And while I was at church, I'm texting him back and forth, how you feeling? I'm feeling fine. I said, okay. Came home. He was fine. Walking, talking, everything normal. Well, I had decided, this was towards 4th of July in 2015. My girlfriends, we all moved from Rochester. One was in South Carolina, one was in DC. So we made up this rendezvous that we were going to meet up and spend the 4th of July in Rochester. So we had worked on this travel. We weren't going to fly. We were going to drive up there. So I worked on getting from Atlanta to Augusta. And then my brother picked me up from Augusta and took me to Columbia, South Carolina. Then my girlfriend picked me up from Columbia, took me to Myrtle Beach, and then we left from there going up to DC. Well, when my husband took me from Atlanta to Augusta, Rashawn was with us. And he was standing there. We had dinner with my brother, and he was standing on the side of the road, on the sidewalk. And I said, Rashawn, don't forget to make your doctor's appointment. I will do that, Mommy. I said, okay. So that was like on a Wednesday. And so I left. And then by the time we got finally to DC, it was Friday. And I got this call from my husband saying to me, does Rashawn have any allergies? I said, no, Rashawn doesn't have any allergies. Well, they took him to the hospital. He had gone out with a friend to a 4th of July picnic. And the story says that when he went there, he fixed his plate, sat down, and he passed out. So now I'm in DC. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Why is this happening? Who, what, where, whatever. And then while I'm in DC, I get a phone call. My girlfriend gets the phone call, and she hands me the phone, and it's the doctor from Grady's. And he says to me, we did all we could. And they tell me I screamed for 20 minutes nonstop because he was gone. And what really bothered me was, if only I had made him go to the doctor. If only I had stayed at home and not gone to church. If only I had not left Atlanta going on a girl's trip, I would have been there for his last breath. The importance of challenging, if only. Better, you would need to find better things to focus your thoughts on. And what's God's response to your regrets? Oh, it took me a long time to find better things to focus my thoughts on. And it was hard for God's responses as my regret, because all I knew that it was my fault. I should have done more in that. So I had to learn to stop carrying things in my backpack. So it's been about a year after Rashawn has died, and I have a niece, and she's about the same age as Rashawn, older, a young lady, and she calls me one day and says, Auntie, I was sitting, and my boyfriend and I were sitting on at a park, and the boyfriend was going through her pictures in her phone, and there was a lady sitting next to them, and she asked him to go back to a picture, and she asked who this was, and my niece said, "Oh, that's my cousin. He died some time ago." And the lady said to her, "Tell her mother that Rashawn says that he's doing okay, and to stop crying. Stop crying. He's doing okay. He's working with the children in heaven." And at that point, I went into my backpack and started taking out different things that I had been holding on to. I took out, if only I had done more to help. I took out, if only I'd made another choice. If only I had been more loving. If only I could get past the shame. Once I took those things out of my backpack, it was lighter. And I understood. And I could sleep better. And I wasn't ashamed anymore, because I had gotten the message from him. My niece didn't know this lady. And most of all, my niece was not one of those who went to church. And she believed in God. Church, she said, was not her thing. So the message out of the blue coming from her made a difference in my life. So my question to you can be how you unpack your regrets. Because once you start unpacking your regrets, your journey becomes a lot lighter. So regret. Examine your guilt and your shame. Avoid isolating yourself. Avoid second-guessing yourself. Learn from past regrets. If necessary, seek forgiveness. You will receive pardon. And I know that I received my pardon because God sent that message to me. The other thing about regrets, others can help you. Other people can offer a new perspective. You did all that you could do. And other people can pray for you. Galatians says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now, false guilt, sometimes we get it confused with responsibilities, with accidents. I should have, the father sitting in the car watching his daughter cross the street to get on a bus, and the flashing red lights are going, but the car passes the red lights and strikes the child. That was an accident, and that wasn't your responsibility. I should be challenged. Many situations we find out there wasn't much that you could have done. If you haven't done anything that defiles God's will, as revealed in the Bible, the guilt you feel is false guilt. But now, if you've done something wrong, God is compassionate and He is a forgiving God. So we have the blame game. If I hadn't done and I should have done, and it's not always in our control. And I often say, and I've said it in one of our grief share sessions, where grandmother was upset that her grandchild died while she was on vacation. And I said to her, I said out loud and didn't realize that I was saying it, God didn't mean for you to be there. Because if He had wanted you to be there, He would have. Likewise, God didn't want me to be in Atlanta at the time that Rashawn died. He allowed me to be there when Aaron died, but He did not allow me to go when Rashawn died. I know I would have gone into hysterics because I had already lost one child, and to lose another, He knew that it was not in my good interest to be there. So we have to look at regret as far as false guilts are concerned, that not everything we can control. And we can't blame ourselves for things that I should have, and challenge whether or not we really could have controlled that situation. Is my loved one upset with me? Will they ever forgive me? You feel you have unfinished business with the person that died. I didn't get a chance to say my last words. I did tell him as I drove away from him in Augusta that I loved him. And he told me that he loved me. And you can hold a grudge, but you shouldn't hold a grudge. Because in Hebrew 12, those who have gone to be with the Lord have been made perfect, and therefore they hold no grudges. So in wrapping this up, managing anger and grief, we need to acknowledge the anger, recognize that anger is a normal response during grief, and permit yourself to feel it without guilt or judgment. Healthy emotional expressions express anger in safe ways, such as talking to someone, journaling your thoughts, or engaging in physical activities. Seek support. Reach out to trusted friends, support groups, or professionals to help process anger and facilitate healing. Not everyone can tolerate your conversation on grief. Professional help, programs like Grief Share, help you to be around people who are experiencing the same situation or traveling the same journey as you are. So not everyone, sometimes even your best friend, may not be the right person to have that trusted conversation with. But know your limits and find the trusted people to help you. Remember, it's okay to feel guilty, but shift through thoughts and look at it and think, what is the truth here? Was it my job or my responsibility? Should I have been there? No, not necessarily. Did I know it was going to happen? No. Asking these hard questions is really important so that you know what is true and what is a piece of truth stuck in a huge lie. We can end up expanding our grieving process by taking an unnecessary responsibility for someone else's actions or death. I later found out that my son was a smoker, and that he smoked more often than I thought he would. And so they said that he died of a massive heart attack. He was dead when he was sitting in the chair after he fixed his food. But I didn't know that. And they said the ambulance just took him on, and they worked on him, but they weren't able to revive him. Hold on. So I want to introduce you, or some of you already know, there is a program called Grief Share. There is a program called Grief Share that is nationally known, and it's a program that people gather to talk about their journeys. Can you hold, John? They gather to I'm sorry, I missed my train of thought. There is other programs that you can join. Even some churches have situations where they get together, and you get together with like people who are part of your community, who have like things and situations, and they can talk about it. Grief Share at Antioch, as you can see, my advertising is on a Monday, and it's a 13th session from 7 to 8:30, but it's virtual. So there are programs where you can go in person and you can go in person. But I would recommend that those of you who are journeying through your grief, join a group, because these people have something in common with you. And they never get tired of you talking about your grief, because they want to talk about their grief. So I hope that I have given you an outlet on things having to do with anger and regret. I know that it probably wasn't in some cases going to help you, but I do believe that if you proceed through your journey of grief, you will get better. I hope this helps. Thank you so much. At this time, I want to, there was a short clip that was done by Chanel Jones, who is part of the NBC, the Today Show, third hour. So hopefully we'll give you this opportunity to hear her take on grief.
People see me on TV and they think, oh, she's better. It's like, oh, no, I'm not better. Every day it's like swimming through mud. Every day. Even just to do normal things, to get up and brush your teeth, go to work, have the kids go to school, get dinner on the table, whatever it is, doing that when you're grieving is very difficult. And I think people want you to feel better because it makes them feel better, and you want them to feel better. So you try to present as if you're okay. But I want to not do that, because otherwise you end up leading like a double life, and then you're smiling to people and then you're not. But if you're not smiling on the inside, then I don't want to do that, right? And so I've had to really do the work. And I recognize now that I hold two things. I hold my grief, and I also hold this joy. And I said it months ago, and I'll say it now. I am fighting for my joy. And when I first said it, I don't even know if I knew what it meant. I still kind of don't. All I know is that's what I'm doing. And when I went back to work, it was so difficult. And even some days now, it's very difficult. But in my mind, I've got this trick where it's like, not even a trick, but it's how I get myself through. I'm like, who is the woman I want to be? Like when I look back at this time in my life and my kids look back, like, who do I want them to see? What mother do I want them to see? So if I'm inside and there are all these people in the plaza, it's harder for me now, right? Because everybody wants to, the women who are in the widow club, we hug, and I lost a sister. I'm also battling cancer, or, people, I feel a responsibility to hold space for what everyone is holding. And that can be very hard sometimes. And so I'll be inside and I'll see all those people outside, and they'll have signs, especially now more than ever. The woman I want to be, she wants to go meet them. And she wants to hold space for them. And she wants to go outside, and she wants to make eye contact with them. So I do it. So I go. Last night I got home, I was exhausted. But my daughter has a dance recital. The mom I want them to see, She's in the front row, and when you look up and you're singing your little Lauryn Hill solo, you're gonna see me smiling at you, and you're gonna see me with these big wide eyes, and I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna be like, you're kicking butt. And so last night I was exhausted, but I was in the front row on the left, right there. And so sometimes that's how I get through. Who is the woman I wanna be? Okay, she'd do it, so let's go.
Thank you so much, Alfreda. Stay online.